Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Sun Tzu says, to secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. You can be sure of succeeding in your attacks if you only attack places which are undefended. You can ensure the safety of your defense if you only hold positions that cannot be attacked. In making tactical dispositions, the highest pitch you can attain is to conceal them. Conceal your dispositions and you will be safe from the prying of the subtlest spies, from the machinations of the wisest brain. Hence that general is skillful in attack whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defense whose opponent does not know what to attack. Therefore, the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. Thus it is that in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory. O divine art of subtlety and secrecy, through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. Good evening, everyone. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, the master of the deceptive arts, and I return to you once again as the memorable voice of the Vasectomites. And it was exactly this day, exactly this day, more or less on this day, or was it the day before this day? It could have also been the day after this day, but it was exactly in and around, more or less, there and thereabouts, plus minus. I can estimately, accurately guess, but let's just say for our sake that it was on this day. It was on this day that, in fact, I'm not really sure what day it was. It was close to this day. It was either the 14th, the 15th, or the 16th. You know what? I actually have to look it up on the papers. I have to check the papers, but it'll be difficult to find the papers. It'll be difficult to find the papers because the papers that confirm the date of my vasectomy exactly are in a very secret safe, in a very secure, tightly secure, high-tech safe, which is pretty much only accessible by biometrics. Well, not just biometrics. There's biometrics, so you got to do the fingerprints, you got to do the eye, and you got to do the face scan. And then, of course, there's a key. And then, of course, there's a password, which randomly generates every 24 hours. So every 24 hours is new password. So if I really want the information to the exact date of my vasectomy, I have to go through that. But this is just the safe. The safe itself is inside of a very secure vault. That vault is placed inside, or rather at the end of a very deep dungeon. The dungeon in itself happens to be, of course, at the end of a maze, a puzzle, right? A walk-in puzzle, which the direct route from the entrance of the maze to the details of the vasectomy will take you nothing more than 2 minutes, 3 minutes max. However, if you don't know where you're going and you keep getting lost, you could be in there for hours, going around and around in circles in that maze, looking for a very specific box in a very specific corner, trying to find a very specific envelope. Not to imply that it's in an envelope, it could be in a plastic sleeve. But that maze happens to be part of a very intricate underground system. The underground system itself is under a very unassuming but very secure structure. And that structure is in a very innocuous part of town, but the part of town that is secured by very capable, very wealthy people. And I pay those people a nominal fee, a small price to pay for salvation, to keep my secrets. Now, that innocuous part of town is in a unassuming, unassuming section of the city. That city happens to be on an island which functions independently but happens to be part of a larger whole. To get to the island itself, I'll give you a small tip. You have to travel through time, transcend space. You have to use a spaceship, a rocket, a time travel machine, a plane, a train, a bus, a boat, a car, a motorcycle, a quad bike, and a jet ski. And then, of course, there is the vortex. So once you make it to the exotic island, which I love so much, and I'm always on an exotic island, so it's really up to you to figure out which one. But once you get there, there is of course the issue of the vortex with the capability of really affecting the time space continuum. It either does one of two things: it can affect the time space continuum, or it'll rip you to shreds. I'm curious to find out what it'll do to you. To me, it opened up a whole new world. For you, there's only one way to find out. You have to go right through that vortex. Then you're nearly there. You're not all the way there, but you're nearly there. And then there's a puzzle, right? The puzzle has to be solved by only what is seemingly a random and unfathomable series and sequences of actions that require you to be tested and stretched both mentally and physically. Spiritually, not so much. And then maybe you may finally discover a fraction of the truth of the ancient one's vasectomy. The To find the sperm in part of the sperm cryopreservation, that is a whole nother adventure that I think you and I can explore another day. But this is just to demonstrate the extent to which I have gone to hide the secret of my vasectomy. I've even hidden it from myself. In truth, I thought that I would never really forget the day that I got my vasectomy. But I knew I would. I sort of tested myself to try and find out when exactly it was. And I'm probably completely wrong. I tried to pull out a calendar to figure out which day it was. And I really couldn't decide. I know it was later in the week because I also had the benefit of the weekend as part of my recovery. But I cannot remember if I went on Thursday afternoon or was it a Friday afternoon. But I know it wasn't a Saturday afternoon. Well, I seem to have blocked it out in my mind, which is a very good thing. which is a very, very good thing. It's exactly what I want. I don't need the details of that vasectomy becoming any clearer than what they are on the paper. The best thing for me to actually do is to completely forget those details, but I cannot. I cannot. I remember it was around 13th, 14th, or the 15th. Definitely not the 16th, which means it probably was the 16th, right? But that is inconsequential. What is important is that it was in and around there and thereabout, plus minus a good estimated guess, around this time exactly, many years ago, that I became a vasectomite. I consider, when I think about the time span of the vasectomites, in truth, I know that we are all born humans. We are all flawed. We are all vulnerable to human weaknesses, right? But I consider the time of a vasectomy or vasectomite to be split in two, right? So, or at least two types of lives, the BV and the AV. The BV before the vasectomy and the AV after the vasectomy. And each vasectomite has a different BV to AV rate. Yes, there's a rate, right? So mine will work around 32 to 70. That's my BVAV rate. So I got my vasectomy. Well, now you know a little bit more about me. Eventually, I suppose we'll know enough about each other to know about each other. But I got my vasectomy in my 30s. So I wasn't the earliest one out the gate, and I wasn't the latest one out the gate, right? So my BV is 30, and then so if the lifespan of the Bachelor Supreme is indeed 100 years, it would mean that my AV is 70. So I get 100 years of life, right? 30 years before the vasectomy, and or as a bachelor, and then 100 years as a vasectomite. Yours is probably going to be more or less the same. You'll probably get about 30 years as a bachelor, and then you go ahead and get like 70 years in the dark dimension, which is miserable, right? So, and this is and this day represents the day that my timeline split and I began to live my life fully as a vasectomite. This is the day exactly, more or less, there and thereabouts. Exactly, right? And and considering this ratio, right? Considering this ratio, wouldn't you think that more people would want to, think this through, right? Just take a moment and think this through. You only have a limited amount of life on this earth, and you can spend that life, trying to fight the bachelor life, making choices that, quite frankly, you're gonna get wrong, right? And then you have the option of getting a vasectomy and becoming a vasectomite and doing the smartest thing you've ever done in your life. Or what is the other consequence of this? The other consequence is that you can bend the knee, right? You can become a vasectomite or you can bend the knee, but either way, the clock of your life is ticking. And there's no definitive age at which a man gets a vasectomy or the AVH starts. But for the majority of men who do get a vasectomy, now remember, this is like less than 1% of the world's population. So this is a very, very small group of people. The majority of that very small group of people get their vasectomy around their 30s and 40s. So the earliest vasectomites, like myself, will emerge roughly in their 30s. And this is very sad. This is very, very sad because it's something that is not mentioned, and I'm going to mention that right now. Something that I think needs to be mentioned is that a vasectomy is reversible. Now, if that was something that I would have thought about at the time of my youth, I would have probably went ahead and got that vasectomy without freezing my sperm. It was the idea, though, that I knew that I wouldn't be returning. I knew that I wouldn't get my vasectomy reversed. So it was one of those things that dissuaded me from doing it. But had had I had somebody, or at least somebody playing the role that I believe that I'm playing now, constantly dissuading you, constantly giving you the information that you need, rather dissuading your guilt by constantly giving you the correct information that you need. And part of that information is for you to remember that a vasectomy is reversible, right? Although it is what they mean by permanent form of contraception is they mean that it works under all and any type of circumstances. That's what they mean by permanent type of contraception. But it's not permanent in that it doesn't have to be forever. It can be forever, but it doesn't have to be forever. You can, of course, have it reversed, right? But for the majority of men, they'll wait until they're in their 30s to initiate their AV, and then spend like 3 decades in their BV, which is like 3 miserable decades because anything can happen. When unfortunately there are very few in their teens and 20s. In fact, there are none in their teens and 20s. You might find one guy who gets a vasectomy in their 20s, but it's usually in their late 20s. But I don't see, if you could, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but if you could undergo a procedure like circumcision, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to undergo a procedure like a vasectomy, especially as a young man. I know it's controversial, teenagers, that kind of thing, but a vasectomy is perfectly safe. That's number one. Number two, it's reversible. It is completely reversible. Number three, you can freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. The only thing a vasectomy prevents you from is accidentally getting somebody pregnant, which is most likely going to happen to you in your youth. In my opinion, and I know some people might think this is an extreme opinion, and I don't care. I'm one of those people that would have wanted a vasectomy in my youth. Had I known, hey, wait a minute, this thing is reversible. So you can get it now as a teenager, 15, 16, 17, and then have it reversed in your 30s when you're ready to have kids. And in that 10, 15-year span between the age 15 and 30, man, you can live your life. You can do a tremendous amount of things. You can really achieve a lot. And I think that I may have been inclined to do a lot of crazy things, but also I may have been inclined to achieve a lot. Like the fear of having children, tocophobia, really prevented me from expressing myself fully in ways that I would have liked. For good reason. I mean, you can have kids, you can get somebody pregnant, so it's a good reason to contain yourself. But had that reason not existed, then the need for containment in certain areas of life may not have been necessary also, right? But when I think of myself in terms of real life, right? Not looking at myself through the solitude or how I project myself through the digital interconsciousness of humanity, otherwise known as the internet. The physical actions of my real life, AV or after vasectomy, are almost exactly the same as those BV. But But my inclinations, my synapses, my thought processes, those are completely different in a way that is noticeable and identifiable even to me within my own thought patterns. When you see me walking around in life, you really wouldn't notice anything different between me and any other knee bender or any other man for that matter. You really wouldn't. Anyone of my age and height and relative, level of health would look completely the same. We would be indifferent from each other, right? But but internally, that's really where the difference is happening, right? Externally, of course, you would not be able to tell anything has happened at all, nor the fact that a lot of things are happening in terms of the vasectomy and the vasectomy knife. And the irony of it is that the thing that's happening is actually happening all the time. The thing you don't know is happening, the thing you're not thinking about, that's the thing that's happening all the time. The vasectomy, the vasectomy is always in play. It is always in play. It has been a great source of motivation for my deceptive arts, a great source of secrecy, a thing to not say, a thing to hide because it is meant to remain hidden. It has been a great, fantastic anchor in my deceptive arts. The kind of thing that makes me know that I will not deter or deviate from my deceptive arts. And even if I did, I would use it in a deceptive way. I used to lie about just the most boring things, just the most mundane things, things about like how much money I had or how much money I'd saved, and I'd always tell people less than what I have, and they'd still be shocked, and it's like, oh, okay, it's like that. Yeah, the economy is gonna crush you. If you think, by the way, if you think you're gonna make it through this economy, I'm here to tell you that you're absolutely not pulling this through. I'm here to tell you that this economy is about to get wild. I'm telling you in a way that you cannot fathom. You see, the previous generation of children, let me explain to you, their technology included Walkmans, it included consoles, you needed a TV, radio, all kinds of things. Then came a generation where it included smartphone technology. But with smartphone technology, it was just one device, whereas in the past, you needed 100 devices. But then they made you pay subscriptions to use everything. See, where we had 1 million devices and you had to buy each one individually and it became expensive, they would all have one device that does everything and you pay a subscription to do everything, which becomes infinitely more expensive. Now, you might think that this is the peak of it, and it's absolutely not, right? Because these kids, they need every device. They need tablets, they need consoles, they need laptops. Some of them might need PCs in various kinds, and of course, they need the mobile phone. And all these devices are very expensive, not including the subscription fees to be able to use them on a regular basis. Even the operating system on computers is on subscription now. And it's probably going to be that way for a long time. But just you wait until they start needing high tech robots. When your children start breaking robots, you're going to understand, because that's where the world is going. It's not just about digital technology, it's going to be about functional technology, right? A thing there with you to do things with you, a thing there for you to do things for you, a thing there by you to do things by you. It's going to be tremendous, and these things are going to be expensive. And on top of all the other technology that they have, the other technology that I mentioned, they're going to need all of that. They're going to need the laptops, the computers, the tablets, all that they're going to need so they can program this machine. And then you're going to need the machine also. And that's going to be exciting, you know. But yeah, these are the kinds of things I'd lie about. So I'd say, no, I don't have money, or I don't have enough money, or I'm saving up, and then there you see me with a Roomba or one of these machines, right? Yeah, your kids are all, each of your kids is gonna have a Roomba in their room. And then you're gonna have one. In fact, you're probably gonna have one Roomba in every single room all over the house. You can have about 10 Roombas by the time you're done, and other robots, you know. And one of the other things that I've always lied about is my proclivities and my inclination, my little sweet fetish, especially my fetish with the wives, the married persuasion, right? And I don't think I and I mean, don't think for a moment that I won't have a steamy love affair with your wife, especially if she's hot, right? Um, and then charge that steamy love affair to your credit card. Yes, yes, I'll make you pay interest on your wife's affair. It's really nothing to me. I told you I don't have a problem with this. I mean, you're cheating on her, she's cheating on you. What's the big deal? Everybody's cheating on everybody, but you, my friend, are gonna get the bill, right? Um, some of the boring things that I've lied about, and by the way, that cheating wife of yours is just a boring lie. It's just a little something on the side. Just don't take it personally, right? I mean, what? You're paying for lonely plans, right? You're paying for only plans, right? So go ahead and continue to pay. I lie sometimes about which country I'm in or which phone number I'm using, from which country I'm using that in. Because I could be in any country using any phone number from anywhere. With your credit card, you could you could pay like an internet bill for another country from another country just online. So I mean, you could absolutely have a phone number from one country and you haven't been in that country in months, and you're in a whole nother country, but you keep making calls and sending texts and messages as if you're right next door. I love doing that, by the way, you know. But my favorite secret to have of late is my vasectomy, because it makes all of these other things possible, affairs with wives and such things, right? Secret rendezvous. And we're going to talk about these affairs with these wives, and we're going to talk about all the benefits about dating wives. You know, having savings is better with a vasectomy. Intimacy with your beloved wife, the mother of your kids, the love of your life, your high school sweetheart, I don't care what you call her. Absolutely much better with a vasectomy. And ignoring your vows, and violating the sanctity of those marriage vows that you made to the state, your family, that you made to God, is absolutely much better with a vasectomy, right? All things are much better with the vasectomy, right? And today is a great opportunity for us to travel through time, to perhaps a time BV or before the vasectomy, to various destinations in history, some more interesting than others, I'll admit, and discover what other monumental acts, what other monumental activities, what other monumental triumphs occurred on this day in history. And I will tell you that when you do eventually time travel, because the only way that they're going to undo the consequences of this message is to go back into time, to travel and find me, and to prevent me from getting my vasectomy. The title of today's edification, of course, is entitled Today in History, 14 October 2026, because it's about today, and today is a very special day. Yeah, this is about all the hype that I'm gonna give this day. I'm not gonna be opening bottles or anything like that. It's just not really my nature. What's next? Celebrating birthdays? Give me a break. Give me a break. So, of course, this article was taken today, 14 October 2026. Maybe one day we'll talk about how to count. But you need to understand that you are not actually in 2025. You know what? Let me address this right now, and I'll do it again in another video. You're not actually in 2025. You are actually in 2026 right now. I know your calendar says 14 October 2025. The calendar is misleading you. And I know you think that you are 26 or 27. You're not. You're actually 28. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you. So, the number 0 means nothing. It's not the first number. It represents the absence of numbers. So think of yourself standing still, right? And you've taken 0 steps. That means you've taken no steps. When you lift your foot, you are at the beginning of the first step. You are not at 0 steps. You are actually at 1 step. So when you move forward, that first step is 1. You don't take that first step and then say 0. When you arrived, I mean the day when you literally arrived on this, like when you took your first breath, that was your first day on earth. It wasn't day 0. Day 0 was the day before. So when they say that you have finished when they say that you are 1 years old, what they mean is you have completed your first year. So think about it in terms of steps. When you are born, it's like lifting your leg. And then a year later, you put that leg down. That first year is not 0 years. That first year is 1 year. And when they celebrate your first year, they celebrate the fact that you have completed your first year, which means when you get that first birthday, you are actually beginning your second year, not beginning your first year. They celebrate the fact that you are. What they do is it's like when you finish a grade and you move on to the next grade, right? You are actually on your way to another grade, right? You are transitioning. And what they're celebrating is a successful transition, not an indication of no transition at all. So today is actually, we are currently finishing the 26th year of the years of the 2000s. We are not in the 25th year. We finished the 25th year. We are in the 26th year. We are completing the 26th year. And in 2026, we will be actually starting the 2027th year. If you think I'm joking, go speak to a mathematician and they'll teach you how to count. This is why I say people don't know how to count. Because you start counting at 0. People start counting their years at 0. You don't get 0 years on earth. You get 1 year. All your years start with 1. They don't start with 0. So we are in 2026, whether you like it or not. 2025, we completed that. There was no author also given for this article, now that you've had your first math lesson in your life. But this comes from historynet.com, www.historynet.com. And there is the link to the details that we're about to read. And then you can, of course, read them yourself, should you so choose, but we will read them here together. We don't actually start in 2026. We will start back in 2012, where Felix, you're going to forgive my pronunciation, Baumgartner, breaks the world record for the highest manned balloon flight highest parachute jump, and greatest free fall velocity, parachuting from an altitude of approximately 25 miles or 39 kilometers from the air. I think I remember that. I think I remember that. And I also think he passed away trying to do something else. I think he tried to break another record and then failed and then fell to his demise. But I do remember that very, very much. In 1998, Eric Robert Rudolph, charged with the 1996 bombing during the September Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. It was one of several bombing incidents Rudolph carried out to protest legalized abortion in the United States. Okay, so that took a bit of a dark turn. So, not all good things happen. So, he decided to use that day to, strap himself full of explosives. I think I did much, much better than some of these people. I went and got a vasectomy. That guy jumped off a balloon. He jumped out of a fully functional vehicle with a balloon and got a world record. I got a vasectomy. So I think both these men would have probably been better served by getting a vasectomy as I did on this day. In 1994, the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. I don't think I remember that, right? But I do remember that. Israel's Prime Minister, forgive my pronunciation, Yitzhak Rabin, and Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres for establishing the Oslo Accords and preparing for the Palestinian self-government. So we now know that didn't work out. Yeah, we know that didn't play out the way that they thought, but they did get a Nobel Peace Prize. This was Yasser Arafat, Israel's Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, and Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres, and they won a Nobel Peace Prize for the Oslo Accords, which I studied a tremendous amount about in university, only for them to be a failure. Right? They absolutely fell apart, as we know today. In 1983, almost a decade earlier, the Prime Minister of Grenada, Maurice Bishop, was overthrown and later executed by a military coup. Wow. Man, dark things are happening in the world. Couldn't they just get a vasectomy? You know what? I think all these men would probably have been better served with a vasectomy. All that work, all that hard work for those Oslo Accords, just for them to just collapse and fall apart in no time at all, less than 3 decades, right? And then there was a military coup where people were executed. I don't know about all this. These military coups, these executions. It's not the way I want to go out. I just want to go to sleep the way that I always do. Just go to sleep and that's it. Turn off the lights. I think in more positive news, in 1978, Usher, also known as Usher Raymond IV, the singer, I believe is a singer among other things, among the top-selling artists in music history and multiple Grammy Award winner. I believe that this is his birthday. And among some of his songs are Nice and Slow and OMG. So that's his birthday, October 14th, 1978. Happy birthday, Mr. Usher Raymond IV. You share a date with me and my testicles. 1974, Natalie Maines, singer, songwriter, activist, lead vocalist of the Dixie Chicks, never heard of them, the top-selling all-female band and country group since Nissan SoundScan tracking began in 1981. Maines Comments against the coming U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003 led to radio boycotts that virtually ended the group's career for several years. Oh boy. So she was a singer, Natalie Maines of the Dixie Chicks. Oh, that's an interesting name. And then she made comments about the war, and then the whole career just ended. Man, you see, this is why you need anonymity, man. This is why I make anonymity my ally. Because it's only a matter of time before I'm going to say something I regret, no matter how clever I try to choreograph my words. They always come back to you. Words will always come back to you. Then in 1969, the British 50 pence coin, the infamous 50 pence coin, enters the UK's currency, the first step towards covering to a decimal system, which was planned for 1971. I think the 50 pence is still in circulation, but the other plans they had for the currency, we all know they all collapsed, including joining the European Union, including leaving the European Union. Man, these guys have made such terrible decisions with the economy, right? Like, why? I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know what's happening in the UK. And in 1968, Jim Hines, USA, breaks the 10-second barrier in a 100-meter sprint at the Olympics in Mexico City. His time was 9.95. That was Jim Hines of the United States, and he broke the 10-second barrier in 1968. I'm not going to lie, if I have to think about it, which would be better, breaking the 10-second barrier or getting a vasectomy? I'm probably going to go with the vasectomy. I think overall the vasectomy would probably have more impact in your life, but breaking the 10-second barrier, that's pretty cool too. That's pretty cool too. Also in 1968, U.S. Defense Department announces 24,000 soldiers and Marines will be sent back to Vietnam for involuntary second tour of duty. Now, this is something that I've never been interested in joining the army. Maybe for like a moment as a young man when I thought, oh, maybe this would be cool, get some action. Oh, maybe it'll be nice, but then I thought, you know what, maybe I'm better off being like a journalist or something, like a war journalist. Then I get to travel and be part of the action. Then I grew up. And I'm like, nah, man, this is not the move. This is not the move. Because of things like this, like you'll come back from war and thinking, oh, thank God I'm done. And then they send you straight back in. Involuntary second tour of duty. Imagine. Man, you think you got out, they pull you back in. I don't know. It's not for me, man. It's not for me. But it happened, 1968. They thought they were through. 24,000 of them chilling at home when that phone came. That phone call came, and your wife picked it up, and he was like, don't answer it, don't answer it. And she was like, hello? Oh, the ancient one? Oh, he's right here. It's for you, honey. Damn. Your wife set you up, bro. 1966, Montreal, Quebec, Canada opens its underground Montreal Metro Rapid Transit System. I've never actually been to Canada. I want to go to Canada. I want to go to Montreal. I want to go to Vancouver. I want to go in the summer. I'm not one for freezing cold. I know they got short summers. I just want to go in and see what it's like and then get out before it gets cold, right? I'm not doing all that, right? It never occurred to me, hey, let me go live my life in Canada. I was just like, the temperature is what? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing those extreme, like, I'll live in a cold place. That has winter and summer. But you need like a clear winter and like a clear summer. You can't just be cold and then warm and then cold again. No. In 1964, Reverend Martin Luther King, yes, the Reverend Martin Luther King, is awarded the Nobel Prize for advocating a policy of nonviolence. I advocate the same thing. I advocate a policy of nonviolence because you do even the slightest bit of violence, you are going to jail. Not worth it, not worth it. I don't think I'll get a Nobel Peace Prize though. I might get a prize for science. Don't underestimate that. I might get a Nobel Peace Prize for science for advocating for men to get vasectomies on a daily basis. You know, I may very well get something like that. That's not unrealistic. But as for peace, I think not. My issue is very contentious, too contentious to be peaceful, I think. Um, in 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis began. USAF, I think that's the United States Air Force, U-2 reconnaissance pilot photographed Cubans installing Soviet-made missile capable of carrying nuclear warheads. So yes, I remember studying all about this. JFK was still alive during this time. It was one of his biggest crises. In the height of the nuclear war, just after the World War, and Russia had moved tremendous amounts of what they believed was nuclear capable warheads, pointed right at the United States. It was a serious time of contention. No such thing has ever happened since. No such thing has ever happened since. It was an audacious move by the Russians. But also even more audacious by the President of the United States, pulling that one off. But in truth, I don't think anybody wanted anything to do with that type of conflict. But it was very strategic time. I mean, the pieces were just being moved in unfathomable ways. We can only be grateful. We can only be grateful. In 1958, Mordechai Vanunu, Israeli nuclear technician who provided details of Israeli nuclear weapons program to the British press in 1986, citing his opposition to weapons of mass destruction. I don't think I understand that. What did Vanunu do? Provided details of Israel's nuclear weapons, so he spied. He spied. This was during the times of the super spy, by the way. They needed spies during these days because you couldn't get this kind of information on the internet. Now we can get it online. You don't really need a spy. Everyone's a spy. The only time you need a spy, I suppose, is to get like video. The guy will go in, shoot a video, and get out. Now you have your evidence. But they don't make them like they used to. They really don't make them like they used to. And what this one did was he risked his life exposing a nuclear program, saying that he didn't want weapons of mass destruction. Welcome to 2026. In 1950, Chinese Communist forces began to infiltrate the North Korean army. I have no idea what happened there. Why? I thought Chinese and North Korean forces were, at least to a small degree, allied. But, how allied are your allies, And who are your allies allied with? Are we allies or just allies? 1947, test pilot Chuck Yeager breaks the sound barrier aboard a Bell X-1 rocket plane. Fascinating. So he broke the sound barrier on a super jet in 1947, almost 80 years ago. In 1944, German Field Marshal Rommel, suspected of complicity in the July 20th plot against a very bad man, his visit at home by two of the bad man's staff, and given the choice of public trial or suicide by poison, he chose suicide, and it is announced that he died of wounds. Oh, wow. So Marshal Rommel, they suspected him to be in a plot against the supreme leader, and then they came to visit him in his home, and they gave him a choice, a public trial, which of course he would probably be found guilty, or the choice of elimination by poison, which I don't think was a choice at all. I don't think they gave him a choice. I told him, I think they just walked in and told him, drink this, and then made up the story later. And he had no choice. And then, of course, he succumbed to his wounds. I mean, why give him the choice? I'd take the trial. What? Trial or this? I'm taking the trial. And they're like, yeah, okay, no trial for you. There you go. In 1940, Christopher Timothy, actor, director, writer, best known for portraying James Herriot in the British TV series All Creatures Great and Small, and Brendan McGuire in the BBC soap operas The Doctors, from the year 2000 to 2006. Okay, so this is the TV series. I think these two men were born in this day. Happy birthday, Christopher Timothy and Brandon Mack. Both of you are from very tremendous TV shows. I enjoy watching them very much, and I can't wait to buy the DVD. In 1933, the Geneva Disarmament Conference breaks up as Germany proclaims withdrawal from the Disarmament Initiative as well as the League of Nations effective October 20. This begins Germany's policy of independent action in foreign affairs. So I think this was one of the things that preceded the war. Remember, the war happened like almost 10 years after this, right? So in the 1940s. So this was just pre-leading the war. So Germany withdraws from disarmament and then starts building super weapons, and then it goes to World War. Pretty much sounds like it's right on schedule. This is a fascinating trip down memory lane, looking at all the crazy things. Of all the things that could have happened on this day, the ancient one got a vasectomy. This is actually turning out to be a much shorter read than I anticipated it. When I was gathering this information, it looked like a tremendous read. But in truth, all these historical things, they happen so sporadically, so randomly all over the world. There's really no way of knowing something has happened unless you analyze it in hindsight. Like, there's some historical actions being taken right now, of which we would never know unless you like watching people that are watching the history makers, of which I'm not watching, even though I know I should be, right? But then there's also the issue of, and then I'm watching them, what can I really do about it? They're all going to do what they want to do anyway, as would I, But it's been a very interesting read to know that all these things happen really on one day, on various different dates all throughout history. Time travel is actually very interesting, and I wonder how far back they would go in history. I wonder if they went back to 1930, where Mobutu Sese Seko, president of Congo Zaire, rose to power in a coup that overthrew the first democratically elected president of the Republic of Congo. The country was renamed Zaire in 1971. Like, if they went back to stop Mobutu Sese from becoming president, would that then have a butterfly effect on me getting my vasectomy decades later? Perhaps even almost 100 years later, because we're almost in 2013 now. Would they be able to go back and prevent the thing that is about to come? Which, of course, you know is going to be tremendous. A world full of vasectomites, men who can get a vasectomy and then reverse it anytime they want if they choose to have kids. Men who are in full control of their manhood and masculinity. It's absolutely going to change the world. And I also know that the only way to do it would be to go back in time and undo it. Because I'm going to push forward. In 1930, also singer Ethel Merman stuns the audience when she holds a high C for 16 bars while singing I Got Rhythm during the Broadway debut in Gershwin's Girl Crazy. Gershwin's Girl Crazy. Never heard of it. But yes, she held an entire C note for 16 bars while singing I Got Rhythm. This was in 1930. I think I missed that one. In 1927, Sir Roger Moore played James Bond in 7 films, 1973 to 1985, and starred as Simon Templar in the same TV series. I used to like that show. Um, the Saint. Very, very inspiring stuff. So Sir Roger Moore, I believe, was born on this day in 1927. Happy birthday, Sir Roger Moore. Further on, in 1912, former U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt is shot and wounded in an assassination attempt in Milwaukee. What the hell is in Milwaukee? He was saved by the papers in his breast pocket, and though wounded, instead insisted on finishing his speech. So this is not an indication of bravery. It's an indication of failure. The bullets, I believe, and as well as the weaponry that they had at those time, was inferior and prone to human error. So you had to load a very specific amount of powder in a very specific way, or to use the firearm in a very specific way in order to get the full effect. But really, he was saved by a few scraps of papers and then decided to continue reading from those very same scraps of papers. Very bold, very dramatic stuff, right? He was saved by papers in his breast pocket. And though wounded, insisted on finishing the speech. He decided, you know what? I'm just going to keep reading the speech with the bullet hole. I don't know about all that. I don't know all that. I mean, self-preservation is the motto that I choose. It's not cowardice. It's just like, what if he fires again, right? What if he's got 2 bullets? You ever thought of that? But anyway, further on, 1884. Now we've gone beyond 100 years. Transparent paper strips photographic film is presented by George Eastman. Transparent paper strips is what makes movies possible, right, as we know them today. So this was a huge deal. I don't think anybody really appreciated it at the time. Nor do we appreciate it now, because we got cameras and video and audio and all kinds of recording capabilities in one simple device, and more than that. But the transparent paper strip in photographic film, right? This is moving stories or movies, if you will, is patented by George Eastman. Sorry, I said presented. No, it was patented. So he invented it and then made it his own business. And I wonder how much he made from that. Because looking at what video is now, you would imagine that he made a killing. Otherwise, he probably lost a tremendous amount of money. People who make inventions, they don't really benefit from those inventions, right? But yeah, he did that on this day. Good for you, George Eastman. Keep up the good work, my friend. Blackfeet Indians attack American Fur Company traders near Montana's Jefferson River, killing 1. I mean, I'm very sorry for the one that died, but how many Indians were there? This is really the question that I want. And how many of them survived and died? Blackfeet Indians. Because they attacked this company and then they killed 1 person. How many people work for this company? I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, like, perhaps they just weren't skilled warriors. Like, if there were like 5 of them and they just managed the one. Perhaps they just weren't skilled warriors. But this is not implying, anything. I'm just saying, 1832, you're about to do something, and then you only pull off 1. And then, of course, that one, his people, they come revenge, they wipe all of you out. I don't think that was such a clever plan. In 1806, Napoleon Bonaparte crushes the Persian army at Geneva, Germany. So it happened in this day, Jena, Germany. That's where it went down. Napoleon brought it on home. 1773, Britain's East Indian Company, which was once the biggest company in the history of the world, by the way. Britain's East Indian Company, and is still richer than some of the companies today. Company T ships cargo is burned at Annapolis, MD, Annapolis. It's burned at Annapolis. I mispronounced that. Well, yeah, so they burned the tea. I'm thinking this was a very big deal in 1773. I mean, today to lose a few bags of tea might not be such a big deal. But back then, where you couldn't just order more online, you had to travel halfway to the other side of the world. You couldn't even send a letter to say, hey, can you deliver the stuff? You had to go pick it up by yourself. I imagine that was a catastrophic loss. But today, you just order. But today, the circumstances around this type of failure are much more contained. You could just order more. You could just order more of anything, really. And the transport system, the movement system, the delivery system is so efficient, the technology, that they could bring it straight to your door. But in those times, it must have been a catastrophe to have your tea being burned up. Oh, I can only imagine. Um, Right, in 1705, that's where we are. The English Navy captures Barcelona. This is a very interesting fact. I had no idea that Barcelona or any Spanish territory was once taken over by the British, or that Barcelona was once British territory. This is very interesting. Wow, history is a very interesting thing, right? Like things, like all these things have nothing to do with each other, having happened, some of them hundreds of years apart, and all the people that were involved are long gone. So I suppose the history of these people will go along with them. But here we are trying to remember it. Well, at least reading about remembering it. 1651, we go even further. Laws are passed in Massachusetts forbidding the poor to adopt excessive styles of dress. That's very interesting. I wonder what goes for excessive styles of dress. And I wonder if we could do that today, but maybe not so much. I think flamboyant people, um, who dress in ways that are not the conventional norm of the time, they might struggle with this. They might struggle with this. But for the most part, I don't think they're going to make laws of how you dress just based on your income. I think they just wanted certain people to dress in a certain way and to become more acclimated, more I don't know, to be part of the system, you know, to assimilate is the word that I'm looking for, to become more assimilated into the system. So they started imposing a dress code, right? Which is not unheard of. Many places at work, like work and things, they'll have a dress code, right? No, no reason you can't have a social dress code, right? Restaurants, they have a dress code. There's certain places where you can't go if you're dressed in a certain way. Um, right at the bottom in 166, right? 1066. So we've gone almost 1,000 years ago, right? Almost 1,000, just over 900 years, right? 900 and something odd years. William of Normandy defeats King Harold in the Battle of Hastings. Very important stuff, but most important of all, in the unknown year, in and around this time, almost sort of exactly, precisely at a guesstimated, hugely unpredictable, I'm almost certain I'm right kind of way. But that type of precision, on that type of precise moment, time, and date, one that we will never ever forget, the ancient one got a vasectomy and became a vasectomite. And that is one of the most important things that I believe could have happened in the history of the vasectomites. To have a voice, a public voice and a platform with which we can express our concerns, our unique concerns, our unique lifestyle, our unique proclivities, and of course, our unique evolution. And if you want to be part of that evolution, it's very simple. You just need to follow the prescribed philosophy of this platform. It's not just something that I advocate and motivate, it's something that I have done myself and I live by it. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. It's very simple. Um, you freeze your sperm because you still want to have your biological options should you want to, have the option of having kids one day. Now, of course, this is an option of having children without the need of having a reversal, your vasectomy reversed, so you can freeze your sperm first, then get a vasectomy. But if you are not inclined to do so, you can absolutely go ahead and freeze your sperm with absolute confidence. Vasectomies are reversible. Now, statistically, the reversal rate is very low. Less than 10% of the men actually do want to do a reversal. So it's not just a matter of once you get a vasectomy, there's a 90% chance that you do get it. And if you are in that less than 10% group of people, the minority of the minority who decide to go back and join the majority, you'll be in a very small group of people. You'll be in a very small group of people. Most of us that get the vasectomy, we keep it. And we keep it for life. That's why it's the vasectomy life, right? Because you're most likely gonna have it, you're most likely gonna love it, and you're most likely gonna keep it for the rest of your life. And so I recommend that everybody does this, every man of any age. I don't care how young you are. I don't care how young you are. I think, 13 years old, whatnot. If you can have a child and you are not sure that you want to have a child, you should be able to freeze your sperm and get that vasectomy. I think, of course, your parents might need to give their consent, their consent, and that's very, very important. But other than that, there are no concerns. There are no concerns, right? You don't need to worry about any side effects. It's not going to make you go crazy or anything like that, even though if you did want to, you could probably do that without any other consequences. You don't want to wake up one day, be 15, 16 years old and having had a kid. And the best your dad could tell you was use a condom. And which of course you're not going to, right? Which of course you're not going to. So the best thing I suggest is to freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy at any age. At any age. You might think it's controversial for a child to get that type of procedure. They get, boys get circumcision at like infancy. They get circumcision at infancy, but then get absolutely no choice in terms of wanting to have kids and whatnot. And the idea that, you could have a child at 13 years old, 14 years old, 15, all the way until you're 80 years old, without even knowing exactly what you're getting into is a serious thing. It's a very serious thing. Now you might say, well, why get a vasectomy for a child? They don't know what they're getting into. They either, yes, of course, but you can reverse a vasectomy. You can't reverse a child. You can't reverse a child. Once that child is alive and breathing and kicking, it's there forever and you're not getting rid of it. And we all know that it could, be the greatest thing that ever happens to you in your life, or it could ruin your life. And I'm guessing it's going to ruin your life. But why have your life ruined before you even know you have the option? Before you've even made the option to say, you know what, I'll take my life to be ruined. And it's already done for you. And this is what's really gonna happen. You know, a lot of kids that are born are really born from unwanted or unexpected pregnancies. They're not born out of love, out of choice, out of happiness. They are a mistake. So prevent the mistake, right? So prevent the mistake, freeze your sperm, and get a vasectomy. But indeed, this was the day. Well, there and thereabouts. Plus, minus, give or take, this was the day or round about the time that the ancient one, I myself, got a vasectomy. I froze my sperm, got a vasectomy. So, I'm not like many of these content creators who are going to come and demonstrate their failures. I have many failures to demonstrate, but what's the point of demonstrating them? When here's a successful move, you can make that successful move yourself. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, it's a win. So I'm not out here telling you, oh, don't do what I did. No, no, no. Do as I did. It works, it's successful. I'm happy with it, and I'm sure you'll be happy with it. And if you're not, you could always have it reversed. Just that simple. You could always have it reversed. Reversals are something that I really don't advocate, but they are worth talking about. If you are there and you are having doubts and you don't know if you should, you don't want to have any kids or you don't want to have any more kids, but you're not sure if you should get a vasectomy, absolutely get a vasectomy. And if you don't like it, you could always have it reversed in no time at all. So there's really no risk for you. The risk isn't getting the vasectomy. The risk is in not getting a vasectomy. The risk is in not freezing your sperm and then not getting a vasectomy. That is a colossal mistake, and I suggest you don't make that. Right? This is not the thing to think about. Don't sit there and guess and wonder, is this right or is it wrong? It's the right move to make. Right? Make the move, freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, and then start wondering about other things. But this is not the thing to wonder about, and this is not the thing to get wrong. As I mentioned, this is the end of the video. Please like this video if you have enjoyed this content. Please share this video with anybody who's wondering what actually happened on this day. Is anything interesting happened? I think a lot of interesting things happen over and above the vasectomy, more or less. But I think a lot of things are happening all throughout history, and today you can make your own history. You can freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, and if there's somebody who's still in doubt, send them a video. Let them know. I'm going to be saying it every day, so you can send them every video until they get it. It's the smart move to make, and I advocate that you make that smart move right away. Also, you can leave a comment to remain part of the conversation, and as always, I will respond to every comment as swiftly and as promptly as I can. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, and I'd like to wish you all a lovely, lovely day. And then, of course, I want to thank you for your time, your attention, your patience, and for lending me your very valuable and precious ear. Have a nice day.